Welcome to another episode on channel that has no name yet because situations keep changing and things keep changing, circumstances keep changing, directions keep changing, comments keep changing, so therefore the channel keeps changing. Now, what is this all in aid of? Well, it's in aid of trying to make South Africa a better place. We are trying to unite South Africans. This channel seeks to make South Africa a union instead of just a democracy. In a union, I'm talking about unifying everybody under one umbrella. Now, it doesn't matter where you come from, it doesn't matter about your age, your background, color, creed, race, religion, you name it. We want everyone to be equal before the law and before God. Now, let's get into today's topic. The topic of today is a simple topic, all right? But yet, it's tricky and complicated at the same time. What am I talking about? People, the Nazis, they committed what is regarded as the worst atrocity of the 20th century. At the same time, everyone acknowledges it. Well, at least the West. And the West decided to force that down everybody else's throat and believe that that was the worst atrocity of the 20th century. Yes. So let's go with that narrative, right? That the Nazis committed the worst atrocities of the 20th century because it was committed against the Jews. So let's get that right? So what is the official story? So the official story is the Nazi people, Adolf Hitler and his people, committed what is seen as a genocide, all right, against the Jewish people. They put them, well, rounded them up, captured them, accused them of wealth, stealing the wealth, retaining the wealth, and basically trying to run, or basically running the German economy, right? As the Jewish people always have money, they always had a plan, and they always knew how to create wealth and generate wealth. And this did not sit well with Adolf Hitler and his band of merry men. What had happened is they were all rounded up, caught, put into concentration camps, gassed, and because of that, 6 million. Some are saying 10 million, as much as 10 million, but the official figure, I think, is around 6 million Jews were gassed to death. And that was a very dark chapter in Jewish history. Fast forward to World War II, and the Jewish people fled because they were being persecuted in Russia, Poland, Hungary, Germany, Austria, you name it. They were being persecuted everywhere. For some reason, nobody seemed to like the Jew people because the Jewish people always seemed to have the highest jobs, highest salaries. They knew how to create wealth. They just knew how not to be poor. And that was seen as a taboo in these countries where the Jews were being exterminated. So the Jewish people fled because they were being killed and they were being hunted and they were there. So the Jewish people asked the British and the French people for assistance in creating a state where they can be safe. And thus they were given British Palestine, which was a mandate. And then they say, well, according to history, it was not a country, but they were given that piece of land. So they were given this land on which I think the Palestinians were to occupy 22%, and then the rest had to go to the Jewish people. Fast forward to South Africa. And that is how, well, basically the state of Israel was born or created. Okay. So we do admit and we do agree that the Holocaust was an act of human, um, I'm trying to right word. It was a crime against humanity. It was an inhumane act. It should not and should never, ever be repeated. Right? Okay. So we agree. We're all on board that the Holocaust was bad, it was atrocious, it was horrific, it was barbaric, and we condemn it in the strongest terms possible. Right. Let's move over to South Africa. South Africa and Israel were born or created around about the same time, round about there, round about the same time, right? And South Africa's blueprint basically almost read off the Nazis' blueprint, right? They created this racist state. They hated the black people. They just did a whole lot of atrocity things that the world did not seem to care about, because at some point it went on for so long. And the reason why it went on for so long is because it was being conducted and directed at black people. It was not being directed at white people. If it was being directed at white people, then apartheid wouldn't have gone on that long. Now, the reason why it's going on, the reason why it went on for 40 years is because apartheid was being directed at black people. Now, we do agree that Palestine has been occupied for 80 years, and some are saying 75 years, others saying 80 years, but so we got the official figure of 75 years, right? So let's just say 75 years, right? And it's the reason why it's been going on for so long is that it's because white people are committing horrific atrocities against brown people. And that's the main reason why it's been allowed to go on for so long, because the West, who seem to be the power group of the entire continent or entire world, seem to have all the cards in their hands. And when it's white committing atrocities, the Western seem to turn a blind eye. But whenever atrocities against white people have been committed, and then the West seem to rush to their aid. Now we've seen that recently with cries and the calls with the genocide in South Africa, well, the perceived genocide in South Africa. The West, well, particularly in America, they rushed to their aid and everything was solved. We then saw with the genocide in Rwanda, it was allowed to go on. 1 million people died, nobody batted an eyelid until the Rwandese had to come up with their own solution to their own problem. Now, why am I telling you all this? All this is because I am trying to highlight that apartheid in South Africa was a crime against humanity. As we agreed, the Holocaust is also a crime against humanity, so apartheid should be done the same thing, as is the illegal occupation of Palestine by Israel. That is also going on for 75 years. That, my friends, is also an act, inhumane act, and a crime against humanity. Israel is doing as it pleases. It has flattened Gaza. It has done whatever it wants, and nobody's batting an eyelid. In fact, they're even getting aided and abetted by America, which again knows that it is aiding and abetting a war crime, and it is aiding and abetting a crime against humanity. But again, because it's America and if it's white people doing it against brown people, it is perfectly fine and perfectly normal. And the worst whole thing about it is there's a whole Arab League, there's a whole Arab nation, there are Arab nations surrounding us, and they standing by idly and doing nothing. We get that. Now, apartheid. People, apartheid was a crime against humanity. And apartheid officially ended in 1994. To this very day, in 2025, you would think that the architects, the descendants, the leaders that followed after the initial creation of the state, the apartheid state, you would think by the very last leadership, de Klerk, Wouter Basson, um, the Minister of Finance, the Minister, whoever they were in the cabinet, you would think that those people that were heading this whole regime, that directed these evil apartheid regime tactics and directed the police and the army and the IDF and to go in the townships and killing people at random, and you would think that those leaders would be hunted, arrested, and executed. Unfortunately, it's not the case. Well, to my shock and horror, the Nazis, to this very day, are being hunted. They are being arrested. And even in the 80s, they are still being arrested. So if the Nazis can go through that, if they can be arrested in 2025 and still being hunted down to this very day for acts they committed in 1930 something, and in 2025 they're still being hunted if they're still alive, then why are the apartheid government officials being left off the hook? I don't get it. Is it because they're white? Is it because the Nazis were not Jewish? These people did almost practically similar things to different groups of people. So, what makes the South African special? What makes them free and exonerated from the atrocities and crimes that their government, that they created, that they oversaw? What makes them immune from prosecution? If you look at the Rwanda genocide, those leaders that initiated and conducted the genocide, they were hunted down. To this very day, they are being hunted down and they are being brought to book. So, why are the army officials, the government officials that ran the South African apartheid government system like an efficient, ruthless, well-oiled machine? Why are we not seeing high-profile arrests? Why is everyone just letting things slide? Sorry, I'm not understanding why lower ranking people have to take the fall, and yet there are bigger fish that are in the pond, some still alive, and why are they allowed to walk free, and yet they too were overseeing departments that were committing horrendous acts. I mean, I really think this is totally unfair on the population, on the people, because to be very honest with you, what the Nazis did and what the Nazis are going through now, running and hiding and all that, is justified because of the acts they committed. They should be punished for it. So if you're telling me that during apartheid, these people got away with so many atrocities, they did whatever they could do and get away with it, then I think that our government is is actually doing a disservice to the people of this country because there are people whose families have been what's the word, dislocated. Families have been placed in disarray. Families that have been decimated because of certain individuals who gave directives and orders to go in and kill certain individuals and families at random at will. I mean, people, more heads, more apartheid heads should be rolling at this point. But it looks to me like the ANC was bought off by these people who decided, okay, when we come to power, this is what we're going to do. We're going to give you guys this and that. We're going to give you A, B, C, D, boards on seats, boards on this. We're going to pay you out monies. We're going to pay this. You turn a blind eye. The whole TRC thing was a farce, to be honest with you, because when you came to the TRC, what we were expecting, the results of the TLC, was not exactly what happened. It may have touched on the tip of the iceberg. It didn't actually do what we were thinking it was going to do. Same like the Zondo Commission. It didn't do what we thought it was going to do. Most importantly, the very people at the top who initiated, who conducted, who directed, who ordered, who signed off on this human act of human degradation and human decimation and human, I don't know what else to call it, this inhumane act of apartheid. Those people are still sitting pretty. If not, some of those people have died in their luxury homes, in their luxury estates. And what do we, as the people who on the ground, who have family members or people who have friends or family members who have been slaughtered by the apartheid government, what does the anti-government have to say about that? Nothing. Do you know why? Because they have been bought. They have been paid off. They're sitting pretty. They are sitting on boards of companies and they are earning millions each and every year. So why would they concern themselves with little peasants, the people that were throwing stones at these army trucks and the police at the time? That goes to show you that the people we voted into power did not have the best interest of South Africans at heart. They were just in it for themselves. They really thought, once we get into power, we are going to eat. And by eat, I mean they were going to milk the system for all it's worth. And as you can see with your own eyes, that's exactly what they did. Sad but true. It it looks like the ANC only waited for Nelson Mandela to die before they could actually do what they intended to do. Well, it's not really that they waited for him to die. It's actually they waited for Mandela to get off the seat and to get off the presidency of the ANC. Once they knew Nelson Mandela was out of the spotlight, they knew that Nelson Mandela had no real power, no real say-so because he was aging and that he was going to focus on his retirement. And it was in his absence that the ANC began to take on a new form, and that is the form we see today. Now, what do you guys think about this topic? Do you think I was on the money or do you think I totally missed it with this one? Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. You know we family, right? Holla!